Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, the games I love the most in college hoops and other sports, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday in college basketball. First up, we see Little Rock and Tulsa. This one's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, Tulsa lost its first game of the season in its last one against Missouri State, and that was a 111-106 triple overtime loss on the road. And, Missouri State's a solid program, mid-major college basketball. It was a true road game, so really no shame in that loss for Tulsa. But anytime you lose a triple overtime game, it's got to be disappointing. I look for the Golden Hurricane, though, to bounce back in this one. I like their matchup, and I like what I'm seeing from Tulsa overall. They've made big improvements to this program, to this team, in just the last few years, offensively especially. You look back 2 seasons ago, this team won 5 games, and they were ranked one of the worst offenses, not only in the AAC, but in the country, right around 295th in adjusted offensive efficiency. Last year, they made some mild improvements, but still in the 200s in offensive efficiency. So far this year, it's a small sample size, but Tulsa's improved their shooting. They're taking better care of the basketball, getting some more offensive rebounds. They're getting to the free throw line, and they're 127th in adjusted offensive efficiency. The defense still needs to make some improvements, but overall, I like what I'm seeing from Tulsa. I think they'll be able to score in the 80s in this game. I think it's going to be enough for a win and a cover. Little Rock, in their 2 step-up games this season against Winthrop and Arkansas State on the road, it was a 15-point loss and a 17-point loss. So they've not really played well in these true road games. They won that last game against UTSA on the road, but that's a pretty weak team. I think Tulsa's a much tougher opponent. So give me Tulsa in this one. I'm going to lay the points at home. Next up, it's Illinois and Alabama. This one, 9 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Alabama coming off its first loss of the season against Purdue. It was a true road game against a very talented team that was just in the national championship game. So really no shame in that loss, even though Bama was the favorite. I still think Alabama is immensely talented, and I like their chances for a bounce back. And, Illinois I also think is extremely talented this year. They're also just, though, really inexperienced, and that's the concern for me, at least early on in these few tough non-conference games that we see from Illinois. They play at Alabama, of course, in this one semi-road game. They'll play a neutral site game against Arkansas. Then they have a couple of conference games, one of those being on the road against Northwestern. For me, that's where it can get tricky for Illinois because there's a ton of talent with a great recruiting pickups that Brad Underwood made in the offseason, but they're 309th in D1 experience. They did not return a lot of production from last year's team. So the numbers are really solid on paper in games against Eastern Illinois, SIUE, and Oakland. But now against Alabama, I do expect a tough one here for Illinois. And I think there's a reason Alabama is such a significant favorite in this ranked matchup between 2 top 25 teams. So give me Alabama in this one. I think they prevail. Their offense just too much in the end. I'll lay the points with the Crimson Tide. Next up, we see Cal Poly and Arizona State. This one's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, Arizona State's last game against St. Thomas was actually a game I was looking at and maybe talking about on the Bank Shop Breakdown because I really like the St. Thomas offense, and I thought Arizona State coming off that big win against GCU, maybe a little bit of a letdown spot, and I was wondering if they were going to be a little bit overvalued, but really the price was exactly where it needed to be in that game, right around 12 and a half points at the opening number. And, I passed on the game because I just didn't think we were getting enough points with St. Thomas. Thankfully so, because Arizona State won that game and covered the number. But now in this matchup, I think Arizona State is a little bit overvalued. I think we're getting enough points with Cal Poly, a team that's been great in this road underdog role so far this season, underdog in general. I mean, they covered against San Francisco. They won outright against Seattle and Eastern Washington in the most recent games. So while the offense may not be the most efficient because of all the turnovers, they are a really solid shooting team. They take a ton of threes. They make them at a solid rate. Their defense has been a lot better than expected. This is a completely different team than it was last year, which makes sense because it's a new coach and a ton of new players. So, Cal Poly is a team I'd say you watch out for in these non-conference games. They got St. Mary's on deck. I think could be an interesting matchup. But, Arizona State's playing well. I just think they're a little bit overvalued after those big wins. They covered against Gonzaga. They beat GCU and covered the spread, of course, as the underdog. They crushed St. Thomas and covered the spread in that one. They still fundamentally turning the ball over a little bit too much. Not the best rebounding team. I wouldn't want to be laying this many points against a team like Cal Poly. It's been very dangerous. Next up, we see the Northern Colorado Bears take on Cal Baptist. This one, 10:30 Eastern on ESPN+. Forgive me if my voice is going out a little bit. I am battling cold this week. But in this game, Northern Colorado's really impressed me this season, and I think that they're really improving as a program. We know a couple of years ago they had won 12 games. Last year they went up to 19 wins, and I think they'll be at the 20-win mark this season, be very competitive in that Big Sky. And Northern Colorado has played a tough schedule so far. I mean, they played at Colorado, forced double overtime, only lost by 2 points in that game, cover the spread with ease. They played South Dakota State, a neutral site, won that game against a very solid mid-major program by 9 points. We took that on the video. And then the last game against Washington State, while they failed to cover the number in that game, lost it by 14 points. It was also a game that they were up by 2 points with about 12 minutes to go. So they still played pretty competitive basketball. They kind of just fell apart at the end. I think this game, though, they grabbed the win on the road. I think this is a balanced team, top 200 in both adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency. They do two key things that I'm looking for in road teams. One, take care of the basketball, and two, defend the perimeter. Those are the two things that really can get a crowd going. If you give up three-point jumpers and you turn the ball over and they go the other way for some fast break, easy buckets, that's a good way to get the crowd going if you're the road team. So if you can limit those, I think Northern Colorado's in great shape in this one. I think they're the better team. I think they played a much tougher schedule, and I think they have the much better defense, especially look at Cal Baptist, ranked 292nd in effective field goal percentage defense, 329th in three-point defense. That does not bode well against a Bears team that takes a ton of threes. Give me Northern Colorado in this one. Next up, we see Idaho State and UCLA. This one, 11 p.m. Eastern on the Big Ten Network. UCLA, we faded them against New Mexico back on November 8th, and the Lobos won that game outright for us, 72-64 at the neutral site. But in the home games that UCLA's played and against inferior opponents like Idaho State, they've just absolutely dominated so far this season. They played Rider, Boston U, and Lehigh, and those aren't necessarily bad teams. They're all inside the top 300 in KenPom, but it was 85-50 over Rider, 71-40 over Boston U, and even worse, 85-45 against Lehigh. I think Lehigh's a decent team, so just an absolute blowout win for UCLA. It's tough to go against them in this role in this game because Idaho State, while they were competitive against Arizona State and USC, they played a tough schedule and they covered the spreads in those ball games. Those are different teams than UCLA. For me, neither of those teams are elite defenses like the Bruins have. And, if Idaho State's only scoring 61 points against Cal State Fullerton, it's going to be tough to score 60 against this UCLA defense. They're just not a good shooting team. They're ranked 342nd in effective field goal percentage. They're ranked 294th in adjusted offensive efficiency. So I do think the Bengals struggle quite a bit offensively and even defensively in this game. And the one redeeming quality that this team has had so far this year has been the rebounding numbers. They're about top 50 in both offensive and defensive rebounding, but UCLA can certainly compete there. They're right around that as well. So I think UCLA scores in the high 70s, 80s, maybe 90s, and they earn another blowout win. So far, they're 3-0 against the spread as a double-digit favorite at home. I think they make it 4-0 in this one. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and put those college hoops picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.